Charlie, I can comment too. I like what you're bringing forward with this housing idea. Single family that will more match what we used to in Gilmer County, maybe a little closer density. My question is, we're 3.5 years ago, this board voted to join this program called the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing. We've not seen proposals like this from GICH. I've been told they've been made aware of such things, but they were negated or shoved aside. I'm curious why GICH launched immediately into pursuit of high-density apartments, which would require zoning changes, ordinance land use changes, and within a year of it becoming active in 2022, by 2023, GICH had locked itself in with a developer, and has been pitching this developer to LJ or Gilmer County for 3 years now. No other developer, just Georgia Communities Paladin. I'm wondering if GICH is not actually becoming a detriment to moving ahead with more practical alternatives for affordable workforce housing and others that types of housing that would fit with the rural ambience of Gilmer County. I'm a little confused too, because I believe it was March 12th, I read on the front page of the Times Courier that rezoning was being sought for the west property down on 515 Mountain View. That property being proposed for apartments. Mr. Smith was quoted saying about 50 units. So we have a rezoning request that doesn't comply with current Gilmer County ordinances, which are limited to 4 units per acre. 6 acres times 4, 24 units.
But we haven't actually seen that request yet.
But again, I'm going by what was reported in the Times Courier. Apparently the developer knew months in advance that the land use ordinance was going to be revised to allow 10 units per acre. That's my supposition based on what's going on here. Yet we as Gilmer County residents didn't see this proposed ordinance until it was advertised in late March, about 2 weeks after the newspaper article. And now we're rushing towards a public hearing to change the land use ordinance on Friday, so you can take a first vote on Friday and then theoretically finalize the land use change at the very same time the rezoning comes in. It reminds me of something we had before the board just a couple of years ago on the lodging tax, when there were members of this board that expressed the opinion that short-term rental owners should be collecting a lodging tax increase on the presumptive assumption that the lodging tax would be increased. We argued successfully that no, we need to have a law in place before we can begin collecting the tax. This is the same sort of thing. Is it proper for Gilmer County to accept a rezoning request and move it forward, knowing the parameters of that request violate the present ordinance?
Tim, do we currently have a request from Mr. West to rezone?
We do.
Okay, what's the status of it?
That request will come if it will come to public hearing if the ordinance change that is on your agenda happens. If not, if that ordinance change does not happen, then the request is null and void.
What specific part of the ordinance change is that?
The density, the R5 charge.
Is this for Mr. West?
Well, it's not just for Mr. West. We just finished a discussion about the availability of sewer. I can tell you, and I'm not gonna name names, is that, if the zoning change happens, there will be another, request coming to you, with a different developer, because of the availability of sewer.
When we were discussing the annexation of this property, I was very clear that I felt that we didn't have the ability to deny the de-annexation. I was also very clear that Mr. West should not assume that because he got his de-annexation, that he was gonna be good to go on the rezoning. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to say I approve or oppose that at this point. But, I absolutely would oppose any idea of de-annexing the property specifically so that this could happen. The idea that we might be changing the zoning for this does not appeal to me.
Well, let me say this. The zoning change, is not just for Mr. West or whoever. It's because we have the need, and we talked about it today, where sewer and water is available, then we have the need for higher density housing. And that is within that area, the urbanized area of East Ellijay, and Gilmer County. One of the problems that we have, and I'm speaking as a planner now, we have a mishmash of city streets and county property on those city streets. If it's a city infrastructure, the property that fronts on it ought to be in that city. And we've got it, North Main Street, Progress Road, we've got it in, Old Highway 5 South. Those are the kinds of things that, as a planner, and my chairman is here, that the land use follows infrastructure. If you've got infrastructure, then the land use ought to be able to accommodate that.
And on that basis, I'm okay with it, but the idea that we're doing anything for any one person.
I've just made you aware that we have already, we being planning and zoning, have already met with another developer that is interested in pursuing the same thing. And it's because of the zoning change, Charlie. It is not because of Mr. West. But that's the world we live in. If the land that is on city infrastructure is inside the city, then they deal with it. We don't have to deal with it.
Unless they don't deal with it, somebody else.
Exactly, and that's what has happened, in Mr. West's case, and that is what will happen in the next case.
So they need to be de-annexed too?
Yes, they would be.
Who proposed the land use ordinance change raising the density to 10 units per acre. It had to originate somewhere.
The proposal does, what, the zones were already there. The proposal, and David, you can correct me if I misspeak, was to make the higher density R5, the availability of water and sewer.
Yeah, he understands what's happening, he's asking why.
Who?
The who.
Let's put a name to this.
Well, I have no problem saying that I'm in favor of it, because I think we made a mistake in our, in my previous term, of that R4 and R5 wasn't really correctly written out, that we needed to make the adjustment so that R5 is a higher density than R4. And I am in favor of increasing that density, not to be crazy density, but increasing it where there is water and sewer, so that we can accommodate potential multifamily, a higher density housing. That's where we want it. We don't want it out in the county. It makes sense right there where there's water and sewer, so.
And I'm not arguing that point, I just don't want us to do it for one specific individual. I don't want us to change the ordinance to suit one person.
Well, if we would change the ordinance back after one came in, that would be bad, but that's not what's happening. And it's to Commissioner Ferguson's point, we need to hire somebody to be able to accommodate some of these places, and as you say, where there is sewer, and it can accommodate the growth.
I think the general consensus is that this was not done for Mr. West. So,
Well, at the same time, GICH has been exploring these issues, and this developer, who is moving his petition forward based on presumptive change, is the endorsed partner of the Gilmer Initiative for Community Housing.
I
Now, the
think-
problem gets to be where GICH has chosen to keep all of its dealings behind closed doors,
okay,
never
I think so.
advertising public
I
meetings.
think so, that these are issues that you need to take up with GIG and not the commission.
I will take that advice under consideration. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, when we get back to the resolutions and stuff, can we go ahead and get, ambulance bid put in first, if something's coming up and he's gonna need to go take care of it?
Okay. Have y'all
Oh,
looked at the ambulance bid?
yes.
Okay, okay, it's done.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Kimberly, you?
Yes, sir. Kimberly Reckless, concerns Gilmer County citizen. GICH is this higher density movement. It is the culmination, what we're seeing today is the culmination of multiple meetings by intergovernmental bodies discussing policy and making decisions that directly impact the citizens of Gilmer County, and by definition, that requires open meetings adherence. Okay, that did not occur with GICH. Why this ethics or why this requirement is in place about open meetings is to avoid this exact scenario, which gives the populace lack of faith in its government, because decisions are being made by governmental authorities behind closed doors in violation of law. And you may say this board is not GICH, but 2 members of this current board are members of GICH, or past members of GICH, who developed this policy, who selected this developer, who was looking to build on Mr. West's land, who encouraged him to de-annex into the county. Okay? You can't separate the two, and I realize that a lot of what's happening here today is cover your behind, because you realize you have a problem. I think somebody's talked to somebody, and they can't back themselves out of it now. See, all of the occurrences of the violation of open meetings have already occurred. You can't just, it's like saying, well, I stopped cheating, so since I don't cheat on my spouse anymore, all the other cheating occasions don't count. You can't, it doesn't work that way. And I understand, Mr. Paris, that you've gone to look for other options because you realize this board and this county and the city of LJ, since it adopted GICH as well, East LJ, have all been drawn into this. And you're looking for other alternatives besides Georgia communities and the route they've taken. I understand, I get all of that. I've been paying attention for 5 years. But sir, today you're saying you don't want to go into developing these subdivisions in the outskirts. You do realize that you've had citizens in Gilmer County and who have been saying this is a problem. But you know what I realized today after listening to Jim Smith is the biggest problem we have in Gilmer County with regard to planning and zoning and land use, because he's been at the center of all of it. I looked at a photo yesterday. It was posted by the Gilmer Initiative for Community Housing, which Carlene and John are part of. You know who's in the photo? Karen Henson and Jim Smith. They were part of the decision-making where it came to identifying properties. So now you've got your planning and zoning board members and zoning leadership involved in it. You think they did not know when the de-annexation was going to occur that what the plan was and purpose was? See, sir, they may have kept you in the dark, okay? And it's clear they have. They've kept the citizens of Gilmer County in the dark as well. And we deserve to have been involved in the process. And you may think you may know more than the rest of the citizens of Gilmer County with regard to how land use. And Jim's experience spans decades, okay? That doesn't mean that his experience and what they're doing, the decisions that are being made, are 1, legal, 2, ethical, or 3, the ones that Gilmer County citizens want. And the 4th problem is they didn't include you in that process, okay? So while you may think I have a spur under my saddle or I rant, I've got good reason to. I've been sitting for 5 years through this nonsense, begging you all to listen to the citizens of Gilmer County, and now I realize why they don't.
I would take issue with the idea that they kept me in the dark. I don't think that's been the case. And I knew when Mr. West asked for that de-annexation that why he wanted that de-annexation, and that's why I made the comment back then that I felt that we had no choice but to agree to the de-annexation by state law, but that he should not expect that automatically meant that he gets his rezoning. So I don't think anybody's kept me in the dark. I think it's just a difficult situation. But as far as GICH is concerned, GICH is GICH makes recommendations. They do not have the authority to implement. And
As commissioners, they do.
well, you're mixing.
No, I'm not. When your commissioners developed and created the policy behind closed doors in cooperation with your planning and zoning board director and your joint development authority director and other members of intergovernmental bodies.
Now, Kimberly, you said the planning and zoning director?
Yeah.
I have no contact at all with the GICH board. None.
Sir, I have photos of you sitting in a room with Karen Henson, Carlene Ferguson.
I'm telling you.
Well, you can deny
show
it.
me where? I have not. I attended one GICH meeting.
Oh, you did attend a meeting. Oh, so you did. Okay. I rest my case on that issue. But let me just, I want to finish here because I don't want to go on a rant. I think that
That wasn't intended for you, by the way, when I said rant.
it's okay. I'm a Gen Xer. I can tolerate these kinds of things. Words don't have a whole lot of meaning unless they have the law behind them. So I do have the law behind me, sir. I do have. I didn't want this. For years, I begged you all to comply, to be transparent, to listen to the citizens of Gilmer County and my concerns, okay? I begged you, I pled with you, and I've even cried before this board to please include us, to be transparent, to allow us to be involved in the decision-making of this county, which is in the opening statement of your joint comprehensive plan. That's the whole purpose of a joint comprehensive plan, is to include your citizens. But if you all recall, Keep Gilmer Rural was denied a seat by both Carleen Ferguson and John Marshall by vote to exclude a voice opposing their agenda. Okay? It wasn't until the 5 minutes before the first SWAT meeting started with the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission that you all finally voted, and it wasn't them who voted, it was you, Charlie, and members of the Joint Comprehensive Plan Committee who didn't know what was up in this county. Suffice it to say, this has been a process that has been going on for a long time. Let me just, since Laurel is here, and you mentioned Laurel being the Joint Comprehensive Plan chairwoman. You'll notice that that was just 6 months ago that the process was complete. I attended every single one of those meetings. My only thing that I said in those meetings was, when I was called upon, was that the JCP was meaningless because this board does not adhere historically to the Joint Comprehensive Plan intent. Okay, which is to designate locations and land use purposes. And they map that, and they map for future use. What I said is, you aren't going to pay attention to it. Carleen Ferguson said, hey, historically, Kimberly, you've been right, and I'm sorry for that. Hubert and I need to change that. Fast forward 6 months, what are we looking at? The future land use map, which designated that west property, which wasn't even part of Gilmer County at the time, was designated for commercial use. Now, what are we looking at today? See, they are doing exactly what I said that they were going to do 6 months ago. Ignore the Joint Comprehensive Plan and implement their GICH initiative and whatever they did behind closed doors, in spite of what our Joint Comprehensive Plan says and in spite of what the law requires. That's all I have to say.